Okay, so I'm going to try to answer the questions that I got on my previous last readings about the royals. Um, okay, so let me see. Okay, so someone asked, somebody asked, could you please explain how someone can be both human and a demon? Are they birthed like a normal human? Okay, well, to answer that question, um, you'd have to ask yourself, what do you consider to be a demon? What do you consider to be a human? Yeah. So these paradigms are what you'd need to explore. A demon is not something that is abstract from a human, and a human is not something that is abstract from a demon. Any definitions of a human that you have, it's not set in stone. I mean, it's not set in stone. Definitions about of a demon is not set in stone either. So whenever, like when I say, because I said it in the royals reading, right, about the supporters of the royals, about them, like some being half demon, half human, and stuff. So it's not set in stone what a human is. It's not set in stone what a demon is. But depending on the paradigms that are established, whenever I talk about paradigms, I mean like the norms, things that the world people see as normal. So certain places consider um drinking blood as demonic, demonic behavior, right? And therefore being a demon. Other places, maybe few and far between, right? Places consider drinking blood to be something totally normal. In fact, angelic almost, because it's as if you're receiving life, the lifeblood of another human, or whatever. So kind of like that. These are what I mean by paradigms, things that some people consider normal, and therefore they live their lives according to it, and they treat other people according to that. So if you consider what a demon is or what a human is, that would answer your question. They don't have to be born they don't have to be born demon, but they can turn themselves into demons. Yeah, they can turn themselves into, in many different ways. Can demons be created? One of which is, it might sound strange or like funny, but one of which is to contradict yourself. Contradict yourself. The more you contradict yourself, there's a spiritual like thing that takes place, because you being yourself, you are also a soul. You are a soul, you are a spirit, and you also have like spiritual powers or spiritual beings also right around you. So let's say you consider yourself to be rich, but then you consider yourself to be poor only when it suits you. That's already two different personalities right there. Now, except you acknowledge that you have these two different personalities, that is what would, at least from what I've seen in the class present, like that is what would keep you human. The fact that you're acknowledging who you are as a person, right? As a person. Unless you choose to acknowledge that as a demon, which is totally fine. So, okay, to answer your question, someone can identify as a demon, and no one else would have the right to say no, you're not a demon. Yeah, that's one of the ways. So identification, because there's a reason why they would identify in that way, so they can identify themselves as a demon. And then the second way, like what I've just said, if a person does not, like, it's not straightforward with themselves, right? Then let's say they were born a human. That human side of them can be shifted, it can be crushed, it can be stifled and crushed under the weight, the heavy weight of insecurity and a certain levels of hypocrisy, right? Because if people are not honest where they stand, so okay, since this question was based off of my royal family reading, I'm going to use the example of the royal family fans, right, and supporters, the Cambridge supporters. Now, they do not admit where they stand. When someone does not admit where they stand, it means they don't know where they're standing. Let me explain. If they don't admit where they stand, just because they don't admit where they stand, it doesn't mean they know where they stand. Because I mean, I've talked about it several times. They don't admit where they stand, right? Or they sort of use arguments based on how it suits them. And they do that with the knowledge or the assumption that they are both right, or even if they're not right, they are going to do something in the spiritual realm for them to be proven right. So either way, they are right. What they don't understand is the more they are, the more they contradict themselves. In other words, the less they are honest with the people they are, let me say, criticizing or putting certain paradigms on, like the paradigm of not taking attention from Charles and Camilla that they put on Meghan and Harry. That paradigm of not taking attention from the royals, like the senior royals, right? That paradigm is what they had been pushing on Meghan Markle and Harry. Now they are using that paradigm to elevate William and Kate. Not only that, but they are not owning up to the fact that they're using that paradigm. In fact, the spiritual realm would keep these people sane in their humanity and keep them human fully if only they acknowledge that this is what they are doing and this is where they stand. It is witchcraft. There are different definitions of witchcraft, but this is one of those. Like, witchcraft is also trying to manipulate other people's lived experiences, like other people's experiences and other people's realities, like trying to create either a Mandela effect or pockets of Mandela effects against those people. And that is what the royal family fans have been doing a lot, especially the William and Catherine, because they know that I'm not like, a. So this is them. I'm not going to own up to the fact that I was criticizing Meghan Markle for the same things Catherine and William are doing today. Secondly, I'm not going to own up to the fact that I am doing things, or I have been doing things in the background spiritually, that make it so that even if someone calls me out on my hypocrisy, I'm going to threaten them enough so that they will let go of that criticism. That criticism, the energy that they were building up to criticize, is never going to manifest. Therefore, since there's not an opposition, like that criticism just evaporated, right? I made it evaporate. Since there's no criticism, I'm right. I've been proven right, right? Like, because energy, whatever happens in the physical room first got created and started in the spiritual room. So whatever that they don't acknowledge or they refuse to acknowledge spiritually, what it ends up creating is a schism in their heads that they themselves don't even realize they're becoming. So that's when they become demons. And slowly, eventually, a person can become like 80% demon and 20% human, because they've gotten so down that root of hypocrisy. Or let me not call it I'll call it witchcraft, because that's one and the same thing depending on the extent, but the extent to which they've gone, it's definitely witchcraft. It first started as hypocrisy, but when it becomes much more deliberate, like when you become deliberate about going into the spiritual realm, or in your head, they definitely know, in your head, you're trying to transform a person's reality. I mean, how can you say that Meghan Markle was wrong for doing impromptu visits and doing a Netflix deal, like behind the scenes deal, right? And now you're trying to gloss over. So again, take note of these words, like gloss over. The glossing something over is trying to put a shine that doesn't exist. They're trying to put a shine over what the actions, the same actions they had criticized on someone else, they're trying to put it on William and Catherine. Now, it doesn't stop there, because it's a whole process to this becoming one, a demon. It doesn't stop there. Why? Because if it stopped there, then these people would still have the humanity 100%. Because okay, it just shows they're very maybe malicious or manipulative, right? Okay, fine. But it doesn't stop there. They then continue. So they are well aware they've just glossed over the same thing they were criticizing others for. Not just that, instead of just staying in silence, they still step out of their comfort zone to tell Meghan and Harry to shape up. So it's like the continued standard imposing on others. They know they've already broken down a standard they were setting for Harry and Meghan. They won't acknowledge that it's a hypocritical thing. They won't acknowledge it at all, right? What I'm trying to say, these processes, it creates swords. I'm sure, like, you've seen the decks, like tarot decks that have swords, like a sword, right? Several swords. It's like that. Whenever whatever we do in the spiritual realm, it has elements, it has energies. Sometimes those energies can be like an energy of fire, right? Sometimes it can be an energy of dark, like the darkness. That's why when someone is maybe talking, or when you see someone before even talking to them, you will say something like, there's a dark cloud hanging over that person. That's because there's precisely a dark cloud hanging over that person. You just don't know that that's what you're saying. Like, you don't know that it's a reality spiritually. Yeah. On the surface, in the physical room, they'll just look depressed. But things like euphemisms and idioms that we say, it's all tied into the spiritual realm. Like, there's a dark cloud, right? Or this person is shining like the sun. That is because there's the sun, the elements of the sun is all around that person in the spiritual realm. So elements can be built around a person, elements can also be destroyed. A sword is an element, or a sword is a device that is made up of an element. So just like in the physical room, again, the physical room is very much a reflection of the spiritual, right? You see how in the physical realm, to make a sword, like, even like making I don't know, like a a pair of glasses, you need this, you need this, like, you need all sorts of, just like, I guess, material, and you need the lens and to bring it together. A sword doesn't just materialize like that. A sword, it needs bending, it needs yielding, and that's exactly what they do to their spirits. Whenever they deny a reality, a certain reality that they try to impose on someone else, these people are creating a sword. What that eventually, that sword is going to get big enough to stab them. They just don't know it. Like, they in fact, at some point, like, the arrogance, the hubris makes them think that they're going to use that sword against someone else. But before they even realize it, it's out of their hands. And now they're playing victim. Now they're playing the victim. Again, like Meghan Markle was doing. So this is not even in support of Meghan Markle, because she's done it several times. But what I'm trying to say is, the sword that Meghan has created, it's it's smaller than the sword that the Cambridges and the Cambridge fans have been creating for themselves. It's smaller. Like, the Cambridge fans have a bigger sword, and they think they're gonna, I guess, like, use it on Meghan, but they can't. They're stuck. From what I see, they're stuck in that position. What it means, and what I'm trying to say is, them being stuck in that position, when someone feels they're in danger, and again, they're not going to show this fear in the realm of the physical, because the discrepancy, the divide between the real feelings and the feelings they've been hiding, it's become so big, so massive, that they're never going to reflect truly what I'm talking about, everything I'm talking about here. You just have to pay attention and put two and two together. Yeah. So, because they never will. Like, they're that crafty, very mischievous, and very devious. So they will never ever reflect these emotions on the surface. At least, not like, they always hide it. Then they do things in the spiritual realm in the background, and then they come back and pretend, like, oh, we've done nothing, like their hands are washed, right? And that they've just been normal the whole time, but they haven't. So the journey to being like again a demon, or like half demon. So these people still have the humanity, but it is slowly dwindling. Why? Because now that they've made this sword, like, it's a big sword, right? They can tell the sword is there. They can tell. It's like when you can tell that you've offended a person, but you try to ignore it. That knowledge is going to be hanging around you. Like, it's going to be hanging, let's say, above your head, right? So it's always there, no matter how much you try to ignore it. Now, as they can see in the realm of the spirit, like the spiritual eye, the minds, that this sword is not going away. We've been doing everything possible to lay the sword at the feet of this woman, Meghan Markle, or her family, and it's not going. Like the world can see more. Because again, this sword can be shiny. It can be very, very shiny, depending on how much light they wanted to shine on Meghan Markle's actions, right? So I'm just using this example. This happens all the time, like everywhere in the world with celebrities and stuff. So whatever, like the amount of light they wanted to shine on Meghan, that is the energy, the amount of light that they have used. Of course, that is the amount of light with which this sword has been made. And that is the amount of light that the sword is carrying. And the light can never be diminished. Not until these people own up to what they have been doing. But then again, they're never going to own up, and they know that because, well, they just won't. They're not going to own up. Like they've already crossed that line of evil or wickedness. So, in saying all of that, now this sword is bright, the sword is shining, the sword is heavy. Because again, all these attributes, they're what they wanted to happen to Meghan. They wanted a heavy reckoning for Meghan. They wanted a big light shining on Meghan. Everything they wanted for Meghan is what they have also used to build a sword against themselves. They just didn't know it. Now, because it's shining so brightly, the world is now paying attention, which means the world starts seeing their own hypocrisy. These people, these fans. Once the world starts seeing the hypocrisy, these humans, they become panicked. They want to get rid of the sword because at some point, again, I've talked about it with the royal family before, the energy, what the spiritual room does is it will allow you up until a certain point to like excuse yourself, except you don't. It then moves from it being a crime, like an action being a crime, to an inaction being a crime. So just like with the royals, where Meghan was doing things, it was a crime, and the royal family being silent and quiet, it was good. Then the reverse started happening, whereby it's like, okay, enough now. Why are you still being silent, right? Your silence is starting to become complicit. So, in other words, your silence is now taking on an energy. It's no longer only silence, it actually means something. It's exactly like that, where these people, once in the spiritual realm, right? Like once they notice this word is coming to them and actually not to Meghan Markle, they're going to want to do something. But even though they want to do something, they can't. They are panicked because if they try to do something, it's going to backfire. The reason they already know it's going to backfire because, well, seeing as the sword is not going to Meghan, it's coming to them. And the only reason it's not going to Meghan is because of they themselves, their own hypocrisy. Like, how can you create a sword? Like, why are you creating a sword when you yourself, you also deserve a sword, right? Like, why are you condoning certain things that you claim Meghan used to bring down the royal family, but you're supporting it when when William and Catherine are doing it? That means this sword you're trying to direct at Meghan, you deserve the sword as well. And since you are closer to the sword than that other person, let the sword hit you first before it boomerangs back to Meghan, right? So these people, but again, they'll never, these people would never admit that they deserve the sword. They'll always play the victim. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why the sword grows bigger and bigger, because they become paralyzed in the inaction. And now the spiritual realm, nowadays the spiritual realm is going to take the inaction, the lack of calling out the Cambridges, right? The same way, the same exact way, I mean, the same exact energy they used to call out Meghan Markle. That lack of action is also speaking volumes and enlarging the sword. As the sword becomes enlarged, these people become suspended. They start panicking. Have you ever seen an animal that is panicked? They can start drinking blood, right? And if someone is drinking blood and that same person has accepted or is living, because people live under different paradigms, but these people specifically, if they are living under the paradigm that drinking blood equals demonic behavior, then they're going to become demonic. Because it's gone too far. They can no longer return the sword. The sword is coming at them. They are stuck. They are backed. So they will never admit that they've done wrong. So they are suspended in their own hypocrisy and their own hubris. So which means they become panicked. And that panic builds up until they become so desperate they start drinking blood. And that's when you see them lashing out in the physical realm and the spiritual, whereby you will then start sensing a much more malevolent spirit that is driving the spirit of the Cambridges and their fans, and like matching the vitriolic spirit of Meghan Markle's fans. Yeah, especially that energy they had in the beginning, whereby you dare not criticize Meghan. You dare not even say you don't like her skirt. Otherwise, they'll come down on you and they'll call you racist, and they'll threaten to behead you. They'll threaten to kill you. Like literally being willing to spill blood because you said you don't like a person's skirt, right? Someone they've never even met. That's the same energy that these royal fans, the Cambridge's fans, are going to take, and that's when they become bloody enough to start taking on demonic characteristics. So eventually that becomes a part of them. That demonic nature, it becomes them. Then eventually, as happens with evolution, they can no longer deny it because the world is not shutting up from criticizing what they're seeing in them. The world is not turning a blind eye. And the world also is not really taking Meghan Markle's side. So these people here, they can't claim that you only hate us because you like Meghan Markle. No, because there are people like myself who criticize Meghan and them, right? Or who despise Meghan and them. So they would like to. Oh gosh, I don't even know. I hope it continues. So these people would like to claim that these people would like to claim that people like myself, we've always been Meghan Markle fans, and the only reason they'll be doing that is to get out, push themselves out of the demon paradigm that they're about to step into. Because once they become desperate and the world is not offering them any kind of salvation, like, yeah, you're right, you have a right to be angry, you have a right to do whatever you're doing spiritually, right? That is because the world is not offering that to them. They become angry, they become upset, and then they become irate because it's like, okay, we have nothing else to hold on to or to make excuses for our behavior. So, because we have nothing to hold on to, we can't be the victims. We're going to own up to who we are in the realm of the spirit, right? And that's where all of this, like the demonic activity then begins, and the drinking of blood. You might wonder, like, okay, what does drinking of blood have to do with like being desperate? Because they need blood to look at least human. Like if they give themselves, it's basically like a survival characteristic, because they are still part human, but they need the blood, let's say like the blood of another human. So you see them start like wishing death threats on others. And when they're doing that, they actually mean it. Just like with the Sussex squad, they mean those threats. They mean to want the person dead. They mean to wish the person dead. It's curses. It's real curses. So you might wonder, like, okay, why go to blood? Like, why? Because as long as if they drink blood, they look human. If they drink blood, they slow down the process of becoming fully demonic. Yeah, in a nutshell. In a nutshell. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any more questions about this, do let me know. Now I'm trying to get to the other questions, but let me see. I hope the video hasn't cut off because my phone just sort of bleeped a while ago. Let me see. Okay, so someone asked, and yes, I am taking requests, so feel free to ask your questions. So someone asked, what do you see Camilla's role will develop into? She's going to be the same. She's going to be the same. Camilla will be the same. Not very playful, but at the same time, playful when it suits her. Yeah, playful when it suits her. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more to that. So I don't want to ramble on. So any questions that you have about Camilla, feel free to let me know. Drop them in the comment section and I'll get them. I'll get to them in time. Okay, so another question. Um, you said William over Charles. I'm wondering if it was the same for Queen Elizabeth over her father, King George. Yes, yes, 100%. Yes. Yeah, that's an excellent question, Gillian. So anything that is coming to your mind about that, do let me know, or you can just write it in the comment section. But you're 100% on the mark. It's the same thing like with Queen Elizabeth and her father, King George. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop the reading here. I don't think there were any other questions about it, but do feel free to drop your questions in the comment section, and I'll get back to it. Thank you.